Our nation is in trouble. I'm talking about our government and our culture. And the only one answer to what we are facing is Jesus. Jesus said in John chapter 12, verse 32, and when I am lifted up, I will draw all men unto me. We need to lift up Jesus in our nation and across the world. So we will be considering the politics and cultural issues of our day in light of God's word. So today, let's consider this. DACA, a path to citizenship. And there's a question mark there. A path to citizenship, question mark. And the answer, as you all know, has been no for a really long time. And when you say, well, why? This program will be very controversial. And I'll just give you a few bullet points at the beginning. I'm going to come back to them at the end. So please, please, please do your best to watch the entire program today, because there is some real underlying things at the back end of this program that you should all know about your government. But the reason the DACA question around citizenship has always been a no, there's three big reasons. One, Washington, D.C. Two, establishment Republicans. And three, establishment Democrats. See, everybody wants to use this as political leverage, and they have for years. We're going to talk about that and how it's playing out right now in Congressional District 34 in the race for that congressional seat. As you all know, if you picked up last week's program, I was in Detmold, Germany last week. My wife and I went out for a mission trip. It was actually really cool. We were working with young kids between the ages of 7 and 17, and we were bringing them the gospel through baseball. Baseball is not a sport, if you will, in Germany, not widespread, but it's starting to pick up steam, and there's kids that are very interested in it, and parents and grandparents. So it's a way of the church that we had gone with, the church out of Far. We would go, and most of us as the Americans, the Christian Americans, would go, and we would be the coaches and assistant coaches on these teams, and we would bring the gospel to these young kids. And many, many were saved over the 10 days we were there. We got to stay with a host family, Christian family, beautiful, beautiful family. The Holines was their last name. Toda, I think I'm pronouncing that right, Toda, and his wife Nellie. Beautiful children we stayed with. They have a daughter, Anne, and a son, Christopher, and I hope I say it right, Elias. But those three stayed in the house with us, and we just had a good time. They made us feel like family from day one. We had a great time on this mission trip. It did feel like I was behind on things because it was a long trip, but even though I tried to disconnect, there's many times because the people in Germany are very interested in American politics, and I think you find that, across Europe, but certainly in Germany and the home we were staying with. So I was able to speak with a lot of people after baseball hours, if you will. They were interested in politics, especially when I told them I was running for House of Representatives. And, so I was educating them on how it works, how the political world works out here. And I'll tell you what, this is where I'm going to jump into this. When I got into the immigration conversation, you probably all know that immigration in Europe has also been a real hot topic. So when I started talking about the immigration here, and then I started talking specifically about DACA, they were not familiar with DACA, although they were very, very interested. Here's what I can tell you. They were all ears as I was talking about this. But as soon as you use the word pathway to citizenship, and that's why I put that in the title today, as soon as you say pathway to citizenship, let me tell you, red flags go off, sirens go off, especially here in the U.S. But even in Germany, as soon as I said, I want to talk about path to citizenship for DACA, they were like, uh-oh, path to citizenship. Well, what do you mean? They didn't know what DACA was. So I went into explaining it to them. And again, I'm continuing to sharpen my view on this. But what was really interesting is the German folks, they really wanted to understand this. And because I was laying out my case for why there should be an immediate path to citizenship for DACA recipients. And I'll just tell you a few of the key points, and you've probably heard me say them here before. Certainly, if you know me personally, you've heard me say this. These kids entered the U.S. before they were the age of 16. So many of them between 2 years old and 10 years old. But you had to be under 16 years old to be considered for DACA, which means you didn't break any laws. Your parents brought you in. So yes, did the parents break the law because they came in? Yes. But these children, these DACA recipients, did not break any laws. They had to have resided in the U.S. continually since 2007. Remember, this law was passed in 2012. And then no felonies or significant misdemeanors before they could be considered for DACA. And they had to be no public safety threat or national security threat. So again, these are kids. These are kids that their parents brought over. And just so we're real clear, DACA does not give any of these folks legal status in the United States. What it is relief. It stops the government from being able to deport them. That's it. And every 2 years, they have to renew this. So when they renew it, it's costing them, I thought it was $600. I misspoke on the last podcast. It's actually closer to $800 every 2 years. So you figure every 2 years, the United States government is getting about $400 million plus in just revenue to say, hey, pay that money to us, otherwise you got to worry about being deported. Makes no sense at all. So it also makes no sense, and I've heard Republicans say it, and I'm sure some of you have. I've heard Republicans, people that, until I educate them, I've heard Republicans say, they all need to go. You need to send them back to their own country. And it's like, I don't call names, but I mean, that's just ignorant. That's ignorant to say that. You can't take a 15-year-old boy or a 10-year-old little girl or whatever and say, well, you've been here your whole life. We're going to send you back to your own country. That doesn't make any sense. This is their country. And if you're a Republican out there and you're establishment Republican and you don't like what I'm saying, too stinking bad. One thing the disciples said very clearly when they were held to account by the Sanhedrin, I won't get into the whole story, but they were told, you won't preach in the name of Jesus. And they said, hey, let me tell you something. We ought to obey God rather than man. That's in the book of Acts. And I would just tell you it applies here. When I say things like we have to do what's right, I don't care who in the government says, hey, this should be leverage. We should use it for this or that. Somebody came here, they didn't break the law. They were 10, 11, 12, 15 years old. They came over here. They've been here their whole life. This is their home. Give them a path to citizenship. And it needs to be immediate. It doesn't need to be a part of another bill. It doesn't need to be attached to anything. These folks are American citizens without the title. All we have now is we've put people in a position where they have to wonder daily, well, what happens if I get deported? What about my family? What about my job? Makes no sense. We are better than that as a nation. And I will say it as loud as I can. I will fight for that kind of stuff when I'm elected. I promise you I will. Yeah, what's interesting is when you laid this out to my German friends, I have new German friends, and I'll say German family, beautiful folks. When they heard it, they're like, well, of course, that makes sense. And you start to explain the corruptness that we have in government in the USA. And, they'll say, well, I think our government's corrupt too, but I think yours is more corrupt. Well, it's a race to see who's most corrupt. But just remember my campaign promise, honor God, serve Texas. And I will do both. You have that commitment from me. Now, let me tell you who does not agree with me. And I said it at the top. The left, the Democrats don't agree with me, and neither do the right. And how do I know? Here's how I'm going to tell you. I know that they don't agree with me on this DACA issue. I've just laid out how simple it is. Don't let anybody tell you it's more complex than that, because they're lying to you. It is not any more complex than that. The Democrats and the Republicans have both had the opportunity where they've had full government power, all branches of government, that they could have taken care of this, and they didn't. I mean, look at, for God's sake, look at what President Trump has been able to do with the border without any kind of help from the other side. He's got that thing down on lockdown. Any presidential administration that determined that they wanted this fixed could have been fixed many, many years ago. Instead, we have people wondering about their futures, and it's not right. They've had the ability to do it, and I want you to ask yourself this. And let's just I'm going to stick to Texas, because that's where the biggest impact is. But I want you to ask yourself these questions. One, why hasn't Governor Abbott, who's been in position for a really long time, he's got the ear of President Trump, he's well liked in all political circles, why hasn't he done the right thing about DACA? You have to ask yourself, why? Is it because there's money to be made? Is it because, businesses can hire people for less money if we're using people from, other countries? I don't know. I'm not going to accuse them of that. I'll just tell you, it's been used as political leverage on both sides for a really long time. In fact, I'd say long enough. Here's another question for you. Vicente Gonzalez, he is the current congressman sitting in the seat for Congressional District 34. Why hasn't he done it? In fact, you haven't heard him say anything about it. Why not? And I'm going to put another name out there, Monica De La Cruz. She's the congresswoman for District 15. Why has she not done anything for DACA? Why have you not heard anything? You hear her bragging about what she's done with Mexico with the water. I'm going to tell you why. She's spending her time right now. We're going to talk about this in a few minutes. She's spending a whole bunch of time the last 5-6 months trying to get Eric Flores elected. She's one of the ones behind the Washington establishment trying to push this thing. Vicente Gonzalez, he's too busy being mad about why the government took $9 billion away from organizations, tax dollars, your tax dollars and mine, away from organizations like NPR, and he's trying to spend money on things we don't need. And I'll just say it, Vicente Gonzalez, Monica De La Cruz, both of them are Hispanic. I mean, what are they doing? DACA should be important. It should be close to their hearts. Shame on you both. Shame on you both. There should have been some energy around this for a really long time. And yes, I don't care who gets mad at me. I'm going to put some energy behind this. I put this short reel together on TikTok a couple weeks ago. I want you to see it. Charlie, could you just put that up on the screen for me real quick?
The DACA thing has always bothered me. But not because the people bother me. It's because it keeps getting kicked down the road. Every president kicks it down the road. We've got to figure it out for people. I don't think any of us want people here that have been here 15 and 20 years wondering what their future looks like. We have a responsibility to fix that and figure it out. And I promise you, I would be committed to that. We need to approach this. Yes, thank you. We've got to approach the whole immigration system with love, compassion, and yes, we have to balance it with an America First agenda so that it's good for everybody.
Now, let me tell you something. That thing has already had over 210,000 views, 24,000 likes. Now, let me tell you something. Do you think that's an important issue? Well, of course it is. 210,000 people thought it was. Guess what? Nobody's talking about it. How come? I'm talking about it. And let me tell you, the Republicans in the establishment, they didn't like it because as soon as it went viral, I got the phone calls. And guess what? Jimmy crack corn, and I don't care. I will stand for what's right. Now, why do you think both sides? Why are both sides against doing anything about it? Because both sides like to use the DACA issue as political leverage. Every time there's a bill that, I heard it on the big beautiful bill. People were asking, well, why didn't we put DACA in there? Well, Well, because nobody wanted to put DACA in there, and the truth is, DACA should stand on its own. It doesn't have to, it shouldn't be tied to anything. That's one of those things that, hey, 2 + 2 is 4. This is the right thing to do. Let's just do it. Instead of every 2 years applying for citizenship, the next time it's, Jimmy's turn to reapply for DACA. No, he goes in, he applies for immediate path to citizenship. And then you can figure out what the specifics to that are. But to do what we're doing now, what do we want to do? Another 10 years, another 15 years? You have 540,000 people in our country not knowing what their status could be a year from now, 2 years from now, 4 years from now, 5 years from now. Some of these people own businesses, they've got children, they've contributed to our society. And we're saying, well, yeah, well, you're going to have to apply for this because if you don't, you can be deported. It's a bunch of crap. That's what it is. And I'm just going to, well, I just said it's a bunch of crap, and now I'm going to try and get myself in line here. I'm going to give you a scripture out of the book of Proverbs that I believe is fitting here. Proverbs chapter 3, verses 29 and 31. Do not devise evil against your neighbor while he dwells securely beside you. These folks are dwelling securely beside us. Do not contend with a man without cause. There's no reason for this. If he has done you no harm, and they have not. The DACA folks, we have done them wrong for a really, really long time, and it's time to make it right. This is the part I told you to stay on the podcast, to watch it to the end, because I want you to hear this. Because I'm going to tell you some stuff that's going to make some people really mad, but this is the inside stuff, and this is truth. Let me tell you what's happening in Congressional District 34. I hope a reel comes out of this one. Let me tell you what's happening in Congressional District 34, South Texas. Charlie, put Eric Flores, put his picture up there for a sec, if you would. Eric Flores, most of you haven't even heard of him, but you're going to hear a whole bunch about him real fast because there's all kinds of money and media behind him like right now. Here's why. He's a lawyer out of Mission, Texas, and as you can see, he just announced that he is now running for the same congressional district as I am, District 34. Just so you know, this is not new news. If you're a Christian, I'm going to tell you, put on your spiritual ears and your spiritual eyes and listen to this and watch this. This isn't new news. I'm going to tell you what's going on with what Washington, D.C. and the establishment, what they don't want you to know. There are a group of insiders in D.C. And for now, I know their names, but I'm going to tell you for now, I'm going to leave their names out for now. For now. And I hope some of them are watching this program. These folks have been courting Mr. Flores now for months to run for this congressional seat. They've actually had him up to D.C. meeting with several pretty important people, names that you would know if I told them to you. Again, I'm going to leave those names out for now, but you know who you are. Had him meet with these people over the last few months. This has been planned. This is how it works in D.C. When I talk about a corrupt government, it's not just the Democrats, it's the Republicans too, and this is proof of it here. Again, I know the names, not going to put the names out at this moment, but at some point, I believe I will. They don't want you to know how this stuff works. I'm just letting you have a little peek in the window here. They pick the winners in D.C., not you, not me, not the voters. The people in D.C., the establishments, they're the ones that pick the winners and losers. They've made the decision. Eric Flores is our guy. He's going to be the guy that we're going to have all kinds of money behind him. We're going to put media behind him. For those of you that don't know how this stuff works, here's how it works. Eric Flores isn't walking in there with $5, $6, $7 million for media ads and all that. Nobody's going to do that. What happens is they pull you up to D.C. They say, we want you to be our candidate. Here's how we're going to make it work. We're going to send money to PAC organizations. They're going to have commercials on TV, radio. We're going to prop you up big time. And all you do, you just make sure you show up and you give your speaking points that we want you to give. I promise you he won't be talking about DACA. If he does now, it'll be because he sees this program. They pick the winners. Remember I said that. They pick the winners. They choose who they want, and then they put the money and the media behind them. That's it. Once they've done that, voila, there's your candidate. All of a sudden, you got everybody saying, wow, well, he is pretty good. I mean, look at everything you're seeing on TV about the guy. Meanwhile, you're saying, well, what about that Keith Allen guy? You're saying, well, I never heard of that guy. How come? Or they'll say things like, well, I don't know. I think that guy's a little out there. You know, he's one of those Christian people. Yeah, he's one that's committed to doing what's right, regardless of who doesn't like it, right side or left side. I'm a Republican, don't get me wrong. And I'm a MAGA Republican. I believe in the America First agenda. What I don't believe in is Washington, D.C. getting to pick winners and losers. I believe that the people, you the voters, get to choose who you want in that seat. And who gets in that seat needs to be fighting for the issues that are important to you, not the issues that are important to D.C. or the Republican or Democratic Party. Here's what I'll tell you. I have a friend down here. If I mentioned his name, many of you would know him. Again, I'm keeping names out of this. I'm trying to do what's right by God, and at the same time, I'm trying to put out the truth here. But this friend of mine's been influenced into supporting this guy. We need you to support this guy. And I asked him this question, and I'm going to ask you this same question. Why do you think, because in business we say you should always ask the question underneath of the question. In other words, it's easy to answer the first question. Start asking several questions underneath of that to get to the truth, to see what's really going on. Here's the question. Why do they want Eric Flores so bad? Why do you have already millions of dollars, and they do, why do they have millions of dollars set aside to make sure this guy has a good run? Why isn't it Keith? Why is it Eric Flores? Why isn't it Bam Morales, who also is a candidate? Why not? Why is it that they've picked the one? How come? And when I asked this guy this, he said, well, I don't really know. Well, if you're going to support somebody, you need to know that. You need to know why would these insiders, some of them are from right here in the Valley, why do they want this guy so bad? Let me tell you something. You guys have heard me say it before. Anytime you're dealing with politics, it's all about money and power. All about money and power. Why are they so willing to put this kind of money and media behind this guy that most of us down here have never even heard of? Let me tell you why. There's a lot of reasons that I don't know, but I can tell you this. He will do as they say. He will do as they say. See, if Keith Allen gets voted in, and let me tell you, Keith Allen will get voted in. I believe that seat is mine. I absolutely believe that seat is mine. But when somebody in the establishment pulls me aside and says, hey, we need you to quiet down about this DACA thing. It's not something we want, we want on the agenda right now. We'll talk about that in the future. Keith Allen's going to say, no, because I'm committed to doing what's right, and I'm going to honor God. And I told the people that I would run on this, and I told the people I would stand up for this, and I'm going to make a whole bunch of noise about it until we get it fixed. That's what you get with Keith. I promise you this, that's not what you're going to get with Eric Flores. What you're going to get with Eric Flores is whatever DC tells him is important, that's what's going to be important. That's what you want, go ahead and vote for him. This is not an indictment of Eric Flores. I don't know the man. My guess is he's a good guy. All that. He wasn't the one that wanted that seat, actually. They're the ones that went courting him, if you want some more inside information. They're the ones that went to him and said, hey, we want you to run. And we'll do this for you if you do. Don't let anybody tell you that's not how it works. It's absolutely how it works. All I'm doing is exposing it. At some point, I'll put some names out there for you. But if I sound upset about it, I'm really not. I'm passionate about it. I don't believe that I do not believe that their scheme, their evil scheme is going to work. Because I believe God is exposing things. I really do. I believe God is exposing this corruption in government. I can tell you about 3 months ago, there was a person. I'll leave it at that. This went back a ways, 3-4 months. I was brand new to this political thing, and somebody told me, yeah, I heard that they said something about you in D.C. that you're an extremist. I said, really? Well, what am I extreme about? What are you talking about? Well, they didn't really say. It's more like, everybody knows you're real Christian. And so I didn't know, is it the abortion issue? Is it, what is it? I've determined, I believe it's not any one single issue. I think what it is I'm an extremist because in their minds, and this isn't coming from the left. This is not coming from the Democrats. It's coming from the Republicans. The reason they're saying it is Keith Allen can't be bought. Keith Allen won't be told what he's going to make important, what he's not. Keith Allen isn't going to be told, here's the agenda. Keith Allen will say, hey, if that's the agenda and it lines up with what I believe is right for the people of South Texas, I'm all about it. But if I see something that's extremely important, like DACA, like immigration reform, and the establishment says we're not talking about it, maybe you're not going to be talking about it. The guy sitting here will be talking about it. So anyways, I hope I've opened your eyes to some things. And I'm going to tell you what, I need some noise about this stuff. When you see the reels, whether it's on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, because there will be some reels. We'll put out 4 or 5 reels about, after this show over the next couple days. All I would ask is you share them grand. You share them with as many people as you can. Doesn't even matter if they're in Texas. Let's get it out there because what we have going on in Washington, D.C. is corrupt, especially when it comes to picking winners and losers. Think about it. You have a primary in March, and then you have the election in November of 2026. We're this far off, and you already have D.C. picking the winner of that race. You think that's fair? You want them playing you like that way? I don't want them playing me that way. I don't think you do either. So until next week, God bless you. I love you, and we will talk to you then.